Hi, and welcome to Answers News for September the 20th, 2018. And when I came up today, I said the Three Musketeers are back again.
Yeah,
so all three of us are together finally again. And we have a wonderful studio audience here with us, so make yourselves known. There we go.
Yeah, these people are from all over.
They are, yeah.
And even a couple from England that are here.
Yep.
And
Canada,
there's people from, oh, there we are. It is
people from
actually
the US?
people from the US. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. People
Shocking.
from America.
I'm just waiting for a day where we come in here, there's no one from the US, they're all from Canada or wherever.
Oh, there's even some Canadians here, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were
There
Canadians. And people are starting to get online. So that's why we start off by just talking about some general things or whatever. What I thought I would do is, I've just been in Australia for 2.5 weeks. And we were down there visiting my mother. There's a photograph of my wife and I and my mother, who turns 91 in February.
Wow.
If she lasts that long. And she's having some physical struggles, and so she has 24-hour care right now. But she loves seeing us. We're over there and spent 2.5 weeks visiting her. And the other thing that we did while I was there was eat. So some of our favorite things, like cappuccino. You know those cappuccinos in Australia, they always put chocolate sprinkles on top. Did you notice that?
I'm all for that. I like that.
Every time we get a cappuccino, they put chocolate sprinkles on top. And then scones with jam and cream. Look at that. See? There I am just waiting to eat it. And then one of our other favorite foods, meat pies with mushy peas.
Oh. See, I don't need the mushy peas, but the meat pies are excellent.
Really?
Yeah, that was a steak and mushroom pie.
Oh, yes, I would have liked that one.
I mean, that's Australia's favorite fast food. Compare that to a hot dog. There's no comparison.
That's right. I agree on that one.
At least you know you have actual real meat in here.
This is true.
You know, who knows what's in a hot dog?
Yeah, there's a few of those down there that I thoroughly
hot
enjoy.
dog, basically.
Where's that one from? Do you remember where you got that one from?
That was from Yatala.
Yatala, yeah.
Yeah, we also visited my cousin, who owns a bakery west of Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'll do that another day, show you some pictures. But her bakery is one of the top 5 bakeries in Australia.
Wow.
She's won 600 awards.
Oh my goodness.
It's incredible.
You can win that many awards as a bakery?
Apparently.
I guess so.
I'm in the wrong business.
That's at a place called Blackbud. But anyway, hey, wanted to make one announcement before I hand over to Dr. Purdom to start with the articles for today. We have a 4-year Bible curriculum. It's a Sunday school curriculum, Bible curriculum, and actually around 10,000 churches have used it in America and other churches around the world. I just, while I was over in Australia, I found some churches in Australia using it. It's a 4-year Bible curriculum that goes Genesis to Revelation. It's for different age levels. It's called Answers Bible Curriculum. It's totally synchronized. Apologetics, Biblical Authority, and Chronological. And we have a special deal for people right now because we have 4 free Noah's Ark Sunday school lessons. And those 4 free lessons actually have posters with them and videos and other things, and deals with the topic of Noah. So if they go to answersbiblecurriculum.com/Noah, you can download 4 free lessons. The whole program is a 4-year program.
Right.
But right now we're just doing this as special for people. Maybe they want to just have 4 lessons on Noah, or you want to do it at home as a study, or whatever.
Or you want to try it out and see.
Or you want to try it out.
I mean, it's an amazing program. I've used it in my church.
It goes into a lot of depth,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that's very impressive about the ABC is you get a lot of meat with it.
A lot of apologetics, in all areas of Scripture, really teaching everybody from kindergarten up through adult, or preschool up through adult, all of these
Somebody
things.
said here, we use ABC and love it. Of course. And somebody else here said, so glad you're back, Ken. It was really boring when Dr. Purdom and Bodie were there without you.
I bet you just came up with that one.
What's that?
Thank
Well,
you.
the bit at the end
Who
I added.
posted that, Ken?
That's what they actually said. So glad you're back, Ken. But they meant to say the other.
They meant to say that.
Reading into it.
No, I could tell that by the exclamation mark.
Sure.
And somebody said Dr. Bodie Puns is here.
There we go.
Yeah, you like to bring up those puns and things. Okay, so let's go through some of these articles.
Okay. Don't turn God into a schoolhouse bully. Look deeper at meaning of religious liberty. So this is written by a pastor of a church in Louisville, Kentucky, which is fairly near here.
That's about an hour and a half from here.
Yeah.
A Baptist pastor.
Right. And so he's also on the board of directors for the American Civil Liberties Union. So that should tell you something right there. And what he is opposed...
I didn't know you could be a Baptist pastor and on the board of ACLU at the same time.
Apparently. But what he is opposed to... Can I talk? He is
What's that?
opposed to putting the national
bully me.
motto, which is "In God We Trust," because there's a bill now we're trying to get through the government to put the national motto in all public schools, okay, in places where students can clearly see it. And he is opposed to that because he says, no, that's not, that's forcing religion on kids.
Now, wait a minute. So a Baptist pastor doesn't want "in God we trust." It's on our money,
Right.
right? But you shouldn't put it in a school.
So should you not have money in school?
Yeah. Should the Baptist pastor tell them that all of them should leave their money at home because it's got "in God we trust" on it?
Would he put it up in his church?
But wait a minute. He says by putting "in God we trust" up, you're forcing religion on kids. But that's not forcing anything on anyone.
No.
It's just a statement.
That's a statement.
But not only that,
Yeah.
public schools are forcing religion on generations
They
of
sure
kids
are.
by forcing evolution on them.
Right.
And they basically throwing creation out and the Bible out, and they're not neutral. The Bible says you're either for Christ or against, right? So in other words, what he's saying here is that he actually says it will be akin to bullying if you do that. You know, that all of Kentucky's children deserve the opportunity to go to school without being berated to believe in God. Well, wait a minute.
Berated.
But that's not berating anybody. But not only that, isn't it true that they are berated to believe in evolution, basically?
So if they have a dollar bill, they're berated to believe in God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That
the
doesn't
thing.
make
It's
any sense.
everything is offensive to me. You know, if it doesn't go along with what I think, it's offensive and should be taken down. Well, then I could say that for a lot of things that
That's
need
right.
to be removed or taken down. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Well, just go back and look at the organic laws of the United States. There's 4 organic laws of the United States. The Declaration of Independence, for example, mentions God, it mentions Creator right there. I mean, that's who we're appealing to for
Right.
our independence from England at the time. And you look at this, and I just think, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why are people so up in arms about this? I mean,
It's our
I see all
national
sorts
motto.
of offensive stuff. That doesn't mean I'm,
Right.
gonna
gonna
go,
go-
oh, well, that must be the religion that's being
Right.
imposed on
Yeah.
me.
By the way, someone said here, if he doesn't want his money because it says "in God we trust," he can send it to me.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
He can send it to Answers in Genesis. We
Yeah,
need it
that's
here.
right.
Doesn't he say something about what he understands Jesus did?
Well, this is what bothered me, was it's talking about why Jesus died, and he said he was killed because he challenged the systems of money and power of his time. No, I mean, he pastors a church. I'm like, that is not the gospel.
Yeah.
That is a very false teaching, and
Yeah.
that would definitely
Jesus
concern
died for
me.
our sins.
For our sins.
Yeah.
He died because he came to die.
That's right.
And not for the reason that this particular Baptist pastor says. So he's the
Makes you wonder, what
co-pastor
does
of
he
Crescent
really
Hill
believe,
Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And as you said, a member of the board of directors of the American Civil Liberties Union. We've had some articles before about the
Right.
ACLU.
Well,
And the thing is, they're more than happy to have, say, the evolutionary religion just imposed on kids left and right, not just with
Right.
one phrase sitting somewhere, but in textbook after textbook.
See, that's
Do they
what
challenge that?
That's what gets me, is public schools, by and large, have become schools of atheism. I mean, there are some Christian teachers as missionaries in the system, but by and large, they impose atheism on generations of kids. And here's, in Kentucky, they're talking about putting "in God we trust" up on the wall, and here have a Baptist pastor saying, no, it doesn't want that. He would rather kids be taught atheism than to see a phrase "in God we trust."
Well, and he even says, basically he's trying to say if we do this, we're being kind of unchristian, because it says Christians are called to love one another, but that's not love. If we make them conform to our perspective, that's placing your trust in God. He said that's imposing your power on others. That's bullying.
So,
But you're supposed to speak the truth in love. I mean, that's
so
you're
him
read what
saying
the
this is
Bible
bullying
says.
us.
Yeah.
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 That's a double
Well,
standard.
actually, he's saying you shouldn't impose your views, that they
Well, then
shouldn't
why
be
is he
imposing their
publishing
views
his
on others.
views
He's trying to impose his
He's
view
imposing
on
his.
us and
It's a
everybody
double
else.
standard.
Right.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, though, he's going to have to answer to the Lord one day for this, because he actually wants to stop kids even hearing that there's a God.
And somebody
Think
down
about
here
that.
said, well, what about tolerance? Shouldn't they tolerate? I mean, why they can do whatever they want, and we try to put "In God We Trust" up there, and they're not being very tolerant of that idea.
Yeah, they're intolerant.
It's
Yeah.
not very,
Yeah.
it's not tolerance.
Hey,
at all.
somebody asked, what are the guitars for? And I'm thinking,
Oh,
guitars?
right there.
Oh, you mean these?
I can see those.
Over here, they're for Buddy Davis. He does concerts
He
here.
does do
Yeah.
those, yeah.
We're not playing
At the
guitar.
Creation Museum. So, and yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, is he
Come to the
doing a
museum.
concert?
Come here, Buddy.
He's probably doing a concert
If they're not
today.
familiar with Buddy, they can hop on our website and get some of his
Yeah.
CDs. And yeah.
Okay. Early human ancestors started to get fat almost 12.5 million years ago. Advanced tooth decay in ancient teeth reveals weight gain, high blood pressure, and gout are not modern problems.
This is an incredible article, because I read it through and I found out that because they found tooth decay in teeth from apes that they claim are 12.5 million years ago, it means that they got fat and had gout.
So if you have tooth decay, you're fat.
I just think it means
That
they
doesn't
have
make any sense.
they have a sweet tooth. Well, and what they're trying to say
Is that
that
fat shaming? I
it-
mean,
it is a fact that humans and gorillas and orangutans and chimps, we lack an enzyme called uricase. So we tend to then put sugars in the form of body fat because of that. We all are aware of that, okay? And so what they're saying is, well, this must have been a mutation that occurred in our ancestors, so that's why we all have it.
15 million years ago,
and
they
we
said.
metabolize all
Supposedly,
this not as good as we should. Well, here's the thing. I don't believe it's a genetic mutation. It could, we don't know, but I don't think it is. It's probably that we just don't produce that enzyme. We don't store it. We don't, transform things the way maybe other organisms do. But I think it's more of our lifestyles that have changed that have caused us to have more problems with this.
I have 0% body fat.
Whatever. Yeah.
Fat's mentioned in the Bible a lot. I mean, right there in Genesis chapter 4, Abel offers fat portions, as part of his sacrifice. We see throughout Genesis, there's a number, not just Genesis, but throughout the Old Testament, we see a number of people who are very large. I actually looked up Eglon, king of Moab, for example, in Judges he was. There's a man mentioned in Deuteronomy. A lot of the sacrifices required the fat portions. I don't think there's anything wrong with fat being part of the original created design. And
It's just too much
being
of
a
it. And the
part of
problem
it.
is, like I say, it's lifestyle changes that have mainly led to the problems that we have. It's not so much our genetics or what we're, how we're designed
Yeah.
to transform sugar into fat.
well,
I still don't get it though, just tooth
If,
decay.
if our supposed evolutionary ancestors 15 million years ago had tooth decay, which means they were fat, I've had tooth decay. I'm worried about my kids now.
Well,
Does that make
what
sense?
about your grandkids? My kids,
Oh, yeah.
they have tooth decay, and
Yeah,
they
that's,
don't have much for fat.
they must have
either.
inherited it from their grandfather,
Oh, yeah, must have, yeah.
seeing as you're a son-in-law.
Yeah.
But it's all story. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just trying to create a story that,
And they're mentioning,
Interpret the evidence.
they have grapes and mulberries and stuff like that they found in the same type of layers.
Right,
looking at
right.
Pollens and by other studies. They also had honey. Those
You know what
types
it
of
is?
things are mentioned
This
in
is a
Scripture.
story. And this is what you usually read with these sorts of, it's
Yeah.
just a story. They make
yeah,
up these
just
stories.
trying to explain the evidence that they find in light of their worldview is really what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Somebody says, I was hoping Ken Ham and Bodie Hodge were going to sing a duo. No, you don't hope that, okay? Please don't hope that, all right? We don't need that on here.
Hey,
I'm looking on here.
do you
I
know
just
what?
don't see the guitar. But
Bodie and I could do songs as a membership drive for churches.
That might hurt.
We could guarantee to drive away more members than anybody else if we did that.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Next slide. You gotta
I've got
go
the
in.
next slide.
No, that's not it.
Oh, that
And
one?
keep going,
Oh,
keep going.
what happened?
There we go. All right.
There you go.
Okay.
See,
You
that's
forgot-
called jet lag.
Yeah, it is.
That's called jet lag right
Yeah,
there.
I've now caught up.
Okay. Human genome could contain up to 20% fewer genes, researchers reveal. So we have known the human genome since 2000, 2003 is when the first drafts were released. And here we are, 15, 18 years later, still trying to figure out how many genes we have. And it just shows you how the human genome is amazingly complex. It's hard to decipher sometimes. And basically what they're saying is they're saying some genes that we thought were genes that produce proteins don't produce proteins because they have certain differences in them that make that not possible. So therefore, they're pseudogenes, which they call obsolete coding genes. And so they say, oh, they don't work anymore. They used to work at one point. They don't produce anything now.
Like vestiges. You know,
Yeah, they're
remember how they
vestiges.
used to have vestigial organs, and they kept
Yep.
saying, oh, you don't need your appendix or whatever, and come find out, oh, wow, it's really important.
Yeah.
The same sort of thing here
Same thing.
is my guess. They're going to say,
Yeah.
oh, we got all these genes, we don't need them.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second, those are really good for regulatory purposes. or
Right, that's
whatever.
what they've actually found. There's a lot of research that shows pseudogenes are really important. They're not false genes like the title they give them, but they're really important regulatory elements in our genome, in our DNA. We actually do need them. So it
yeah.
turns out we don't have as many as we thought.
You know, what it says to me, though, is that DNA is so much more complicated than what people think. And there's probably levels of complicated codes and things that people have no idea about.
Right.
Hey, what I was doing while you two were blabbering on over here about that was that I wanted to show a picture of this book because a number of people commented on this. This is a new book that came out this year that I wrote dealing with how to actually take the gospel to a secularized culture. And people are here commenting because one of the things that we just did, one of our supporters that saw my relevance talk in the church called us, and then he got some other people together, and they funded sending this book to every church in America and in Australia and Canada and New Zealand and the United Kingdom. And all those mailings have just gone out, and churches are now starting to get them. And the idea is to impact the church, and also we're offering the church leader who gets that 2 tickets to the Creation Museum, the Ark Encounter, and Museum of the Bible to be able to influence the church and impact the church. So be praying for that, and a number of people have already commented on that.
Yeah, that book is easy to read. It doesn't take, you could sit down and probably read this and
Couple hours,
Yeah, a couple
easy.
hours.
And
easily.
basically, I'm explaining to people, our culture used to be an Acts 2 type culture where you could present the gospel and say the Bible says, and people sort of had a foundation to understand it. But our culture has become an Acts 17 culture. It's like the Greeks. And if we don't understand that, we're not going to be able to communicate the gospel to our current world. But anyway, thought I'd just mention that because a few people were commenting that their church had received the book and they're happy about the mailings and so on.
Well, since you're talking about that, let's go ahead and hit these. We have Genetic Entropy and the Mystery of the Genome by Dr. John Sanford. This book really looks at a lot of the issues and aspects of DNA, a lot of the what's going on in the genome. It is a powerful book. Just to understand even things like mutations and natural selection and different issues like that. Sometimes we don't always get it, but this is a great book if you guys really want to find out more about that. Again, it's Genetic Entropy. And the other book we have up here is World Religions and Cults, Volume 3. This is the one that deals with the secular religions. And you know what? We were just talking about
like atheism.
Atheism and evolutionism that's in our school system. That is religious. And it is being imposed upon generations of kids. And hardly anybody's out there questioning that. They want to keep the words, "In God we trust," out of something. Right. And yet they're more than happy, to have repeated
somebody said here, how in the world did you send that book to every church in the U.S.? It was sent to like 288,000 churches in the U.S. You can actually, there are places that actually have mailing lists for such churches. And so we're able to get hold of that mailing list. And we did
Somebody asked if the book is available in electronic form.
Yes, it is available electronically. It's available digitally, and it's also available, obviously, in print.
Right.
And you can get that from our website, answersandgenesis.org.
Okay. Hurricane Florence is 50 miles larger with 50% more rain thanks to climate change, right? We got to blame it on that.
As soon as Florence was heading towards America, I thought, you know what's going to happen? Immediately people are going to say, it's all because of climate change.
Yeah.
Anytime anything like that happens,
If
it's
big,
all because of climate
it's
change.
a big storm, right?
Yeah.
And so, and there's no doubt that it's been a big
bad.
storm and it's caused a lot of damage. But what's interesting, I found the paper that was published on this has not been subjected to peer review yet. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is the problem. That kind of stuff really has to go through peer review first.
Yes, it's sensationalism. That's what it is.
That's exactly what
And
it
they
is.
also said basically they computer modeled what they believe,
The conditions were like before the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah,
Right.
and so they're basically saying they assume certain things to say this is therefore because of climate change. Actually, there's been climate change ever since the flood.
Yeah.
And-
Probably even since the fall.
And Bodie, didn't you do
Yeah,
some
yeah.
research and go back and look? Have there been bigger hurricanes
There
in
sure
history?
have. I looked up the top 35 hurricanes that we have record of. Only 4 of them have happened since the year 2000. The majority of the big ones actually occurred between the 1950s and the 1970s. The 2 biggest ones were both in 1961. One of them was Hurricane or Typhoon Nancy and Violet. Both of them had sustained winds, 207. The other was 213 miles per hour. So, I mean, these things have been common for quite some time.
And the other thing you've got to remember is too, I mean, there's been a lot more spread of the population in America and a lot more development now.
So you see a lot more damage.
So
it
you'll
affects-
see
yeah.
more damage and, with the flooding and so on. So, what's happening is a lot of the younger people, I find, they haven't been taught what's happened in history, and they get the idea that, anytime there's something like this or floods or whatever, it's all because of climate change.
Right.
Actually, these sorts of things have been going on, even worse ones in
there
history.
was a typhoon that just hit Hong Kong and the Philippines that was a Category 5. It was bigger than Florence. That just hit on the 16th,
Right,
I believe.
I saw that on the
And
news. It was
there's a
awful.
cyclone that's about to hit India right now. So.
Well, they've had many typhoons
these
and
things are
hurricanes in the
happening a lot.
past, some
Yeah.
very, very destructive ones.
One of the few times that I actually went to Australia, we were down there for almost 3 weeks, and this cyclone sat just off the coast for the majority of that time. It never did come inland, but it really tore up the beaches. And I went to Australia expecting all this beautiful weather. We did everything in the rain. I mean, it was miserable.
Well, right now in Australia it's drought, and they want some of the rain we've had over here.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Okay.
but
Scientists identify protein that may have existed when life began. Now, I had to laugh at this whole article pretty much because it's one giant story. Because I'm into molecular and cellular biology and all that stuff. But what's interesting, here's what they say: that researchers have found among the first and perhaps only hard evidence that simple protein catalysts, may have existed when life began. How can it be hard evidence when you're not sure if it existed? Right? That makes no
but
sense.
that's exactly how evolutionists teach in the schools. This is fact, and they have, and it's not fact.
Maybe. This
Yeah.
is fact, maybe.
Yeah, this may have happened.
It says here, researchers have designed a synthetic small protein. Well, hold it. It took intelligent people designing this. And they're saying this is what happened way back when.
So-
They
By
had to have
random chance.
intelligence
They
to do
designed
this.
something that's fairly complex
That they said happened
that they said
naturally.
happened naturally millions of years ago. They think
Maybe.
to maybe.
Randomly.
That they have hard
basically-
evidence that they may not
But
have.
what the article is admitting is you've got to start with complexity because otherwise life wouldn't exist. And of course, what they're really saying is there's no way it could have evolved by natural processes. But of course, they don't say that. But to me, that's what they're saying.
And if I could have counted up how many times in this article they use the words may have, it's all just conjecture. And they only build it from like 2 different amino acids. Catalysts are things that speed things up. So you have to have that for life.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're trying to explain is before you could get DNA, before you could get these complex proteins, what's sort of a simple, quote unquote, thing that you could have had that could have maybe led to life. This isn't hard evidence, people. It's computer modeling. That's all it is.
Somebody said here, the climate is changing since the beginning of the fall of man. That's true.
Yeah.
Somebody else said here, science has proven 100 million years ago it never rained. So, of course, they're having a go at that article.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Okay.
was a joke, in case you didn't realize that.
I got
I
it.
just wanted to explain it
Okay.
to you.
Next
Okay.
slide, please. Artificial cells are tiny bacteria fighters. So this is about a new artificial cell. They're called Lego block artificial cells that can kill bacteria. They're not a living cell. They can't like reproduce in that sense, but they basically are sort of a membrane-bound cellular structure that can specifically target bacterial cells.
Like a little biological machine.
Yeah, and it kills them.
Yeah.
And that's really
That is
that's
kind of
really
neat.
cool. Yeah.
It goes after them and attacks those sorts of things.
So-
what if they'd be able to design something like this to take out cancer? Wouldn't that be
Well,
phenomenal?
that's what the hope is, obviously,
Yeah.
with something like
So,
this.
you know, you see some of these science fiction movies where they'll inject you with all these little robot things that go in there.
Nanoparticles, yeah.
Yeah, and kill the bad guys in there. That's basically what they're talking about.
See,
Yeah.
it reminds me of Agent Cody Banks. They had something like that on there on one of those little kids' movies.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. It's been a while.
Agent
yeah.
Bodie Banks? No.
No.
Oh, Cody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Actually,
these are neat.
this is a good example of real observational science. It's
Yeah,
not
this is
like
pretty cool. I like this
evolution is a belief about the past and it's a religion, whereas this is using your five senses in
That's
the
right.
present. That's what
You can
real
observe
science
this,
is all
you can
about.
repeat this.
Yep.
And we've got to fight antibiotic-resistant bacteria. That's one of the biggest things, one of the hardest things to deal with a lot today. And so this is a way that we could possibly
Yeah, cool.
do that.
I like it.
Okay,
I approve.
Stephen Hawking's ghost may have been found. So Stephen Hawking died not that long ago, well-known physicist.
What,
and,
Ghostbusters get on this or what?
who had Lou Gehrig's disease. And so anyway, so this is talking about something that he basically had suggested, and so now they think they found evidence for it. And
Not his real.
well, what's
ghost.
funny is they said, you know, all the evidence shows our universe emerged from a single event, okay, the Big Bang. Then later, literally, like paragraph down, the leading theory of the birth of our universe, meaning the Big Bang, has a problem. The evidence doesn't back it up.
Now,
Wait a minute.
well,
So how can all the evidence?
So
so the
Show
Big
that,
Bang
but then
has
they don't have
the
the
Big
evidence
Bang
for it.
has been presented as fact in public school textbooks now for a number of years, and now we have this article coming out saying, well, the evidence doesn't back it up. But we've been saying that for years and years and years, that the
In fact,
evidence
there's
doesn't back
there's
it
a
up.
lot of physicists, a lot of scientists that are out there that actually oppose the Big Bang, that are
yeah.
secular even. And you know, there's a famous cosmology statement. You can look that one up, where a lot of scientists have actually said they don't believe it. So I mean, there is some
and
conflict
because
going on
they
there.
say they should find these gravitational waves. They don't find them. And the Big Bang goes against the second law of thermodynamics because things don't go from they don't follow disorganized to organized. They go exactly opposite of that. They go organized to disorganized.
And they actually
It's
say that.
inconsistent with the first
I
law
know.
as well.
It
you know,
goes
matter
against
can't be
all of
created
that.
in
They
third
say there's
story.
problems, and they say now, the interesting thing is, Stephen Hawking's had this idea that the universe, what happens is, it's cyclic. So it sort of dies and comes back.
Right, like
and,
you kind of a Big Bang, it comes back to another one.
and here's the interesting
multiple
thing.
universe type of
They
thing.
say that in this scenario, there is no beginning and nothing is lost. There's no end and no beginning. So they're prepared to believe in a universe that has no beginning and no end, but they won't believe in God who has no
They
beginning
basically
and no
believe
end.
the universe is
right?
the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end,
Right.
the first and the last.
Yeah.
And
Boy,
they
that's
also
interesting.
said
Sounds familiar.
the thing about this period of time is that massless gravitons and photons don't really experience time or space, and so it starts all over again. So something that doesn't experience time or space, they're prepared to believe that there are particles that don't experience time or space. Wait a minute, the Bible says God does not exist in time. He exists outside of time,
Yeah.
and
He
He made
created it, He beyond it,
space
yeah.
for us to exist in. So they're prepared to believe in things existing in no time or space, and something with no beginning or no end, but they reject.
As long as it's not God.
They reject God.
Well, and what's amazing to me is, like they say at the end of this cycle, they say what's left behind is nothing. And then
And
they
everything.
say, and everything.
So how
Well,
can
wait
it
a
be both
minute.
everything and nothing at the
It's
same
either
time? at the
nothing
same-
or it's
That's
everything.
illogical.
But you know what they're doing?
Okay, it violates scientific laws. It violates logic. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes no sense.
They're basically saying you can believe in an eternal universe, but not an eternal God, and they're
Yeah.
grappling with how could there be space? How could there be time? How could there be energy, matter?
Yeah.
How could there be any of this? They're grappling with all of this
Right.
because they refuse to accept The very first line in the Bible, in the beginning, God created.
You know, there was a Hindu myth that said that the earth was sitting on top of an elephant. It's called the world elephant. And then people have asked, well, what's the elephant on? Oh, well, it's on the back of a tortoise or a turtle. They call that the world turtle. And, you know, in more modern times, people said, well, what's that on? And they say, well, listen, it's turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
And do you realize that they're saying the same
That's
thing?
right,
It's
yeah.
universes, big bangs all the way back. It's nothing. They're
Yeah,
teaching the same
that's
thing that we
true.
see from mythology.
Yeah. Well, and it even says, you know, the guy who's coming up with this idea that worked with Hawking says, this person said, he even believes he knows what will come next. And this guy says, the next universe will be just like ours, but only in overall appearance, not in detail. And I'm like, nope, guess what? The next one's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. And that's going to be for all eternity. It's not going to cycle. There is no cycle to it. And so it's just interesting how much they think they know and yet don't.
Yeah, it's interesting too that they said that they found some particular feature that could be actually the result of another universe bumping
Right.
into ours. But they come
But
up.
we have no evidence for other universes.
We have no
yet.
evidence for other universes.
Yeah. So it just shows you
And yet,
lots of storytelling.
And yet they compared this to 8,000 different simulated universes.
Yeah,
Yet we
I saw
don't know
that.
what any other universes would be.
Okay, well, I think we have
Where's the
time for one more
science?
here.
Yeah.
Meet the Creationists Helping to Change Arizona School Standards on Evolution. So this is out in Arizona, and we've actually talked about, not particularly about Joseph Cazell here, but the superintendent there, whoever's the head of the board of education there, is actually trying to get some wording changes to the state standards on evolution, on science, so that it doesn't exclude, it doesn't make evolution the only explanation for life. And so, but now there is a creationist actually on the board looking at the state's science curriculum.
It's
Now,
an
hang on.
board, yeah.
There's 8 people on that board, and because one of them is a Christian and creationist, then there's this article.
going nuts.
This
Yeah.
article is written about it because the secularists are all upset and up in arms that one creationist out of 8 on this school board, he's going to destroy the whole thing. Can you imagine? Could you imagine if there was? Could you imagine an article if it said, "Meet the atheist helping to change Arizona school standards and evolution"? They're not going to do that.
No.
If there were 8 atheists on the school board, there would be no article. But one creationist out of 8, and
Well, they
suddenly
even
there's this
said-
big
Do
article.
you realize how shocking this is, though?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this and I'm like, I can't believe they have 7 evolutionists on this board.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
talk about bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Well, they
terrible.
even said, though, they're giving Cazell's views outsized influence. How are they doing that if he's one of 8 people? That's the minority, not the majority.
But it shows you what's happening in our culture, that it used to be that Christians had a favored position in our culture.
Right.
Now, if you're a Christian, you're the bad guy. And that's where the culture is at. And that's where the younger generations are at. They've been indoctrinated and brainwashed to believe if you even mention the
it was
Bible,
imposed
you're
on
a
me.
Christian, you're a bad
Yeah.
person.
When I grew up
And
in
what they're
schools,
really upset about. Now get this. So they wanted, one of the things that they wanted to see change, especially he wanted to see the creationist, was that when referring to evolution, referred to it as an explanation instead of the explanation. So
So-
that's what they're fighting about, is one little word.
Yeah, this whole article is all upset
Yeah.
that they changed the explanation to an explanation because
How dare they say this is not the only way?
the secularists want to indoctrinate kids in evolution. Think about this for a
It's true,
moment.
yeah.
They want to force school boards and basically legislate to protect the teaching of evolution. If evolution is so right and creation is so wrong, then it should be obvious to the kids, right?
That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying, let's just teach the science and show the kids all this information. And he's not pushing for young earth creation to be in the schools.
No.
He says, let's just teach the science and let the kids decide for themselves.
You know,
we don't want the kids to decide. We want to tell them what
Yeah.
the same emotionalism here is what I see happening in politics at the moment. And I don't want to get political as I talk about this, just to say that I've noticed with this Supreme Court nominee that the secularists, the left people are so worried that maybe someone might perhaps tell them that they're not to murder children in the mother's wombs, and because they so want to protect abortion, the right to murder children, that there's this incredible emotional outburst. It just shows you how anti-Christian the culture has become.
You know, if Isaac Newton were around, you know, young Earth creationists, Maxwell, Boyle, Faraday, Mendel, Galileo, all these others, if they were around today, they probably wouldn't make these lists either. They probably get in trouble. Oh no, we don't want to have those creationists on.
You want to have Isaac Newton on a school board? You can't do that.
You can't do that. He actually believes in what the Bible says.
Yeah,
about
he believes in creation. He may be the greatest scientist of all time, but you can't have him on a school board.
Him on there. How dare
All right, somebody on here said, first-time viewer, excellent show. I'll be back. So
somebody else said here, they do not want to retain God in their heart, so God gives them over to a reprobate mind. Hey, you know, when I was in Australia, I actually did an interview at one of the Christian radio stations there, and met somebody there who said they faithfully watch Answers news program.
Yeah, I'm hearing that
every week.
more.
So.
All right.
Yep. All right. Well, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you back on Monday at 2 o'clock.
All right. God bless you guys.
All three of them will be outside in the lobby at the far end down there that you can get one and read them if you want to when you leave here. For right now, just make sure you check around your chair and pick up all your belongings. You may exit over on your left. Give these guys time to get to the other end also. Thank you. God bless.